I've always preferred silence. That's probably why I chose to live alone after moving to New York for work. I didn't like roommates, didn't trust flatmates, and honestly, the idea of walking into a quiet flat at night gave me a strange sense of peace. The apartment I rented was on the third floor of a half-empty building in a calm neighborhood. One of those places where the elevator's always dusty. The security guard is half asleep, and no one really cares who comes or goes. I liked it that way. It was the first week of July. Rain hadn't hit the city hard yet, but the skies were cloudy every day. I had just gotten back from work around 8 p.m., plugged in my phone, tossed my wet socks near the door, and flopped onto the beanbag with leftover food. That's when I heard it. I looked up. It came from the main door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I don't even talk to my neighbors. I waited. Maybe I imagined it. 3 slow knocks this time. I got up, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. No one. I opened the door. The corridor was empty, lights flickering like they always do. Maybe a kid? I shut the door and bolted it. 10 minutes later, as I was scrolling through YouTube on my TV, it happened again. Now I was irritated. I went straight to the door and looked out. Again, no one. This time I didn't open the door. I just stood there, silently, ear pressed to the wood. Nothing. I was probably just tired. I microwaved the rest of my food, poured myself a glass of water, and turned off the main lights, leaving just the kitchen one on. I was halfway through an episode of Dark when I noticed something that made my skin crawl. The water in my glass was shaking, just slightly, like a faint vibration. Then, my Bluetooth speaker, which I hadn't connected to, lit up blue and played a small chime.
Device connected.
No device had been connected. I stared at it, my mind blank. Then I saw something on my TV screen, a reflection just behind me, a shadow, like someone standing in the hallway near my kitchen. I turned around instantly. Nothing. My heart was racing now. I stood still, trying to hear any sound, any breath. Then something even more confusing happened. My TV turned off by itself. Not unplugged, not blacked out, just powered off. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I walked to the TV, checked the plug. It was in. I checked the remote. Batteries were fine. I turned around to go back to the sofa. And then, my phone's flashlight turned off by itself. It wasn't the battery. It was still at 53%, but the screen was frozen. And then, the knock came again. This time, from the kitchen window. I don't live high up, but I'm still on the 3rd floor. There's a small balcony outside my kitchen window, more like a ledge. No one should be able to knock from there. I didn't move, just stared at the window. And then, the glass fogged up, like someone was breathing on it from outside. And right there, in the center of the glass, a single finger slowly traced a word. Morgan. My name. I stared at that fogged-up window for what felt like hours. My name, traced on the inside of the glass. I couldn't move. My legs were ice. My throat dry. Who the hell knew I lived here? None of my friends even visited. My landlord didn't even know my full name. And what kind of person could reach the kitchen window from the 3rd floor? I finally took a step back and turned on the balcony light. It flickered for a second, then came on. There was nothing outside, just wet floor tiles and a few pigeon droppings. No footprints, no movement, nothing. But the fog on the window was still there. And so was my name. I shut every window and door in the flat, double-locked the front, and turned off all the lights except the one in the bathroom. I figured if anything weird was going to happen, I'd rather see it in the mirror. I spent the night on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the ceiling fan spin slowly above me. It didn't help that every time I closed my eyes, I imagined that knock again. The next morning, I convinced myself it was stress, maybe some kind of anxiety episode. I went to work, pretended everything was fine, and didn't tell anyone. But the weirdness didn't stop. When I got home that evening, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Faint but sharp, like old meat or something wet and rotting. I checked the fridge. Nothing expired. Sink was clean. Trash had been taken out. Then I walked into my bedroom. My closet was open. I always keep it shut. Always. And inside, on the top shelf, something was moved. A small red shoebox I hadn't touched in months was open, contents scattered. Inside were old documents, a few photos, and a copy of my college ID card. I picked it up. The picture side was scratched, but only one thing was clear. My name, Morgan, written twice. Once printed, and once newly written with what looked like a dull marker in strange, shaky handwriting. I dropped the card and stepped back. That's when my phone lit up with a Bluetooth pairing request. New device detected. Unknown _ PRSN wants to connect. I didn't sleep. After that voice whispered my name through my Bluetooth, I sat frozen on the couch, gripping the kitchen knife like a lifeline. I kept all the lights on. Every now and then, I'd hear something, faint tapping from the walls, as if someone were dragging a nail behind the drywall. Too soft for plumbing, too random for rodents. It was like someone was trying to write inside the walls. By morning, my head was spinning. I needed someone, anyone, to witness this, to prove I wasn't going insane. So I called my older brother, Liam. He didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in much at all. That's exactly why I needed him there. He arrived that evening, cracking a beer before I finished explaining what was going on. "This place just feels off," he said, scanning the ceiling. "Kinda smells like a wet carpet. I haven't slept in 3 nights." He sat beside me on the couch and nudged my shoulder. "Then you're probably just hallucinating. Sleep does that. You ever had sleep paralysis?" "No, this isn't that." I told him about the Bluetooth connection, the video feed, the scratches under the bed. He half listened, half laughed. But later that night, Liam stopped laughing. It was 2:41 a.m. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth. I heard him shout from the living room, "Yo, dude, your phone just said something." "What?" I rushed out with a mouth full of toothpaste. He was staring at my phone screen. It had opened on its own. No apps were running, just the camera facing forward. A single word showed in glitchy overlay text at the bottom. "Hello." Then the phone vibrated and took a picture by itself. The screen froze for a moment, and then we both saw it. A face, pressed against the inside of the living room wall. Mouth open, eyes black and sunken, like someone was suffocating from inside the drywall. The image stayed frozen for 3 seconds. Then the app closed. The file was gone, completely vanished. Liam stood up slowly. "Bro, what the hell was that?" He looked pale now. I grabbed my phone, swiped through the gallery. Nothing. No photo. No autosave. "I told you," I said. "There's someone here." Or something. We went to the wall where the photo had shown the face. It looked normal, a standard painted surface, until Liam pressed his palm flat against it. "Feel that?" "What?" He stepped back. "Put your hand here, right in the middle." I did, and he was right. It was cold, freezing cold, like there was something on the other side, something alive but not human. We both stared at each other. Then Liam said it. "We're cutting this open." I hesitated, but then I grabbed a screwdriver and a hammer from the closet. Liam started prying off the drywall. Behind it was black insulation and a small, narrow crawl space, maybe 2 feet wide. Not a maintenance tunnel, not for storage. It looked more like a gap that was never meant to exist. We shone a flashlight inside. The beam caught scratches on the inside of the wooden studs. And something else. A plastic bag. Liam reached in and pulled it out. Inside was a moldy notebook wrapped in cracked cellophane. Faded, water damaged. We opened it. The first page read, "To the one who hears the name. He is not a ghost. He is not a man. He becomes your name. Whispers it until you answer. Then he lives inside you. Then inside the walls. Don't talk to him. Don't listen. Don't look in the mirror when he's close." There were more pages. Dozens. Stories. Reports. Names. All handwritten. All claiming the same thing. The last entry was dated September 2014. 9 years ago. We sat there in stunned silence. Then, my phone lit up again. Bluetooth pairing request. Device nearby. Morgan_mirror wants to connect. Accept? I threw the phone across the room, and the second it hit the floor, the lights went out. All of them. We were plunged into darkness. Then we heard it again. Coming from behind the wall, crawling upward. Then something thumped onto the floorboards inside the crawl space. I aimed the flashlight. The beam flickered. For just a split second, we both saw a figure, bent backward, its limbs twisted. Its face that was mine, a rotting version of me. Liam grabbed my arm. "Get out. Now." We ran down the hallway, but the front door wouldn't open. Deadbolt. I know I unlocked it earlier. I swear I did. From behind us came footsteps, slow, uneven, like someone limping. We turned. There was no one there. Just the door to the crawl space. Wide open. Then the voice whispered again, not from the phone this time, but from the wall itself.
"Don't leave me, Morgan. I live in your name now."
That was it. Liam picked up the fire extinguisher, swung it at the door lock. 2 hits. 3. The bolt snapped. We ran out, down the stairwell, onto the street. We didn't stop running until we reached the gas station 3 blocks down. We called the police. By the time they arrived, everything was still. No open walls. No notebook. No smell. No evidence. Just our shaken statements and a flashlight left behind. They filed a basic report and advised me to take some time off. I moved out the next day. Liam hasn't spoken about it since, and I never connected my phone to Bluetooth again. But some nights, when I'm half asleep, I still hear scratching behind the walls. And sometimes, I see my name pop up on screens I didn't touch. It started with a cheap apartment. I found it on Craigslist, $600 a month, utilities included. Furnished. Quiet neighborhood. The only catch, it was old. Like 1960s vibe old. Peeling wallpaper, creaky floors, stained bathtub. But I didn't care. I was broke, and it had 4 walls and a door. That was enough. My neighbors were quiet. Too quiet, actually. There were only 3 units on my floor, and I rarely saw anyone. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps above me, even though the top floor was supposed to be vacant. But whatever. Old buildings make noises. Then the peephole started acting weird. It was about 2 weeks after I moved in. One night, I came home from work around 11 p.m. Tired, cold, and starving. As I fumbled with my keys, I felt it. That spine-prickling feeling like someone's watching you. I looked down the hall. Nothing. But before entering, I glanced into the peephole from outside. It was black. That wasn't unusual. It was late after all. But when I opened the door and turned around to lock it, I noticed something. Light was leaking from the hallway into my apartment. So why was the peephole black? I walked back to it and looked out. Empty hallway. But the feeling didn't go away. That night, I heard a knock. Not a loud knock. Just a soft, deliberate tap on my door. I froze. Looked at my phone. 3:12 a.m. I tiptoed to the door and looked out. Nothing. I stood there for a long time. The next morning, I convinced myself it was a dream. Maybe I was sleep deprived. Work was stressful. New place. I was adjusting. But then it happened again the next night. This time, the knocking was louder. I looked through the peephole immediately. Nothing again. But the weird part? I felt warm air, like someone had just been standing there. I checked the security camera above the hallway the next day. The landlord said it had been malfunctioning for years. Of course it had. By the third night, I decided to ignore it. I put in headphones, blasted some music, and passed out. But around 3:15 a.m., I woke up gasping. I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had shoved their fingers down my throat. I stumbled out of bed and ran to the sink. When I looked in the mirror, my neck had red marks, like handprints. I live alone. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next evening, I tried something different. I put my phone on a tripod, pointed it at the front door, and hit record. Then I waited in bed, pretending to sleep. At 3:12 a.m., the taps started again. This time, they were on the peephole, like someone was tapping the lens from the outside. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just waited. Eventually, the taps stopped. Silence. In the morning, I checked the footage. What I saw still makes my skin crawl. At 3:12 a.m., the doorknob twitched. Then the lens fogged up, like someone breathing on it. And for exactly 11 seconds, a shadow passed in front of the door. But there was no body, just a shadow, floating. After seeing the shadow on my camera footage, I told myself I'd move out. But moving costs money, and I didn't have any. So I stayed. One more night. Big mistake. I covered the peephole with duct tape. Whatever was on the other side seemed to like looking in. I figured I'd just block its view. At 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of paper sliding under my door. I crept over and picked it up. It was a napkin from a diner down the street. Someone had written in smudged black ink, "Why did you cover my eye?" My hands shook. I ripped off the tape and looked through the peephole. Nothing. I backed away. Suddenly, the hallway light went out. Click. Then the taps started again. But this time, it wasn't just on the door. They were on the walls. From inside. All around me. I yelled, "Who's there?" Silence. I checked my phone. 3:14 a.m. I opened the camera app and started filming the door again. I left the phone running while I sat in the corner, eyes wide open. 3:17 a.m. The door handle began to jiggle violently. Then a single loud knock. Bang. Then another. Bang. Then nothing. I didn't check the footage till morning. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the camera screen turned static. Then, frame by frame, someone stood outside. A woman, pale, hair covering her face, wearing a hospital gown. But her mouth, it wasn't right. It was stretched, too wide, and she wasn't tapping anymore. She was licking the peephole. I couldn't breathe. I called the cops. They found no signs of forced entry. They said I was probably stressed and overworked. But I knew what I saw. I decided to crash at a friend's place that night. Packed a bag. But just before leaving, I looked at the door one last time. There was a red stain around the peephole. When I leaned in to inspect it, something blinked. From the inside of the peephole, I ran. Didn't think. Didn't breathe. Just left everything behind. My friend Eric let me crash on his couch. He laughed when I told him the story, until I showed him the footage. His face went pale. He made me promise not to go back. 2 days later, I got a call from my landlord. "You need to come back. The police are here." I thought it was about the break-ins. It wasn't. Apparently, someone in apartment 303, directly across from mine, had filed a noise complaint against me. Except, apartment 303 had been vacant for 6 years. We checked together. The door was chained shut from the inside. Nobody could have entered. Inside, the room was covered in writing. Walls, floor, ceiling, all in black marker.
"Don't look into her eye. She knows your name. She lives in the peephole."
In the center of the living room was an old photo album. Page after page of tenants, each one with their names scratched out. Until the last page. My photo, with the caption, "The next one." I moved out that night. A month later, I started hearing taps again. In my new apartment. No peephole this time. But the mirror in the hallway fogs up at exactly 3:12 a.m. Last night, someone wrote on it.
"You can cover the hole, Jay, but I'm already inside."
My name's Neil. I live alone in a single bedroom apartment on the 6th floor of an old building in downtown Chicago. It's not a nice place. Peeling paint, rusted radiators, elevators that groan like they're carrying corpses. But the rent is cheap. And with a dead-end graveyard shift job at a 24/7 call center, that's all I can afford. It started about 3 weeks ago. I came home around 3:30 a.m., threw off my coat, microwaved some noodles, and collapsed on my couch. Then I heard it, breathing, from the ceiling vent above my TV. Not the building's heating system kind. This was shallow, raspy, human. I muted the TV, sat up straight, waited. There it was again. I live on the top floor. There's nothing above me except insulation and a crawl space for maintenance. At first, I figured maybe a raccoon got in. Weird, but not terrifying. The next night, I opened the vent to check. Just darkness. No smell. No movement. No fur. I shone my phone flashlight into it, nothing. But right before I turned off the light, I noticed something. A fingerprint on the inside of the vent frame. A smudged, greasy fingerprint. Way too big to be mine. 2 days later, I woke up to find my fridge open. Food on the floor. Milk spilled. Nothing was stolen, just rearranged. Like someone had been inspecting. The next morning, I installed a motion sensor camera in the living room. It picked up nothing. Until the 4th night. 2:57 a.m., a soft clink sound. Then silence. 2:59 a.m., my camera caught movement. Something slid down from the ceiling vent. A human arm, long hairless, bone thin. It dangled from the vent like it was searching for something. I paused the footage, zoomed in. The fingers had no nails, just swollen flesh at the tips, like they'd been chewed off. I didn't sleep that night. I called the landlord. He said, "You sure you're not dreaming this, buddy? No way a person's in the vents." He came up the next morning, opened the vent, crawled halfway inside with a flashlight. "I don't see anything," he said. He turned to get out, then froze. "Wait a second." He pulled something out. A photograph. Old. Faded. It showed a family. Man, woman, child. And me. Me. But I've never taken a photo like this. And I've never met those people. On the back, in childlike scrawl, "New Daddy." The landlord looked pale. He didn't say anything, just muttered that he'd check with maintenance and left. I haven't seen him since. That night, I locked every window, every door, pushed a dresser in front of the vent. But at exactly 3:01 a.m., I heard it again. Right above me. Then a voice. "I see. You." And the dresser began to move. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch with a kitchen knife, staring at the ceiling vent as the shadows shifted. By sunrise, I had convinced myself I imagined it all. No more breathing, no movement. Maybe stress was finally frying my brain. Until I checked the wall behind the dresser. Long vertical scratches. 5 of them, fingernail deep. But I had blocked the vent with that same dresser. Something had been inside the wall, clawing from the inside. I called the police. They came. They checked. They laughed. "You think someone's living in your vent? In this economy?" One of them joked. They found nothing. Told me to get some rest. But they didn't take the photo. They didn't see the writing on the back. That night, I set up 3 cameras. One in the living room facing the vent. One in the kitchen. One pointed at my bedroom door. Then I took a sleeping pill and passed out. I woke up at 4:17 a.m. to the sound of the kitchen tap dripping. Half asleep, I opened the bedroom door and stepped on something wet. Milk. Spilled again. Same carton. Open. Dripping. But now there were wet footprints across my floor. Bare feet. Way too long. As if someone had more toes than a human should. I checked the footage. At 2:58 a.m., the vent cover slowly slid open. Then a face peeked out. Not a full face, just a mouth. A smile. Ear to ear. No eyes. Just a smile. Then it whispered something. I replayed it 20 times before I could decipher it.
"Your skin fits."
I moved out the next day, told the landlord I was done, and left the keys. He didn't respond. I never saw him again. I stayed with a friend. 1 night. 2 nights. No issues. Then, on the 3rd night, something woke me up around 3 a.m. Not a noise, just the sense that someone was watching. I looked toward the window. On the inside of the glass, written in fog, "Come back. Crawl back." I went to the cops again, this time with the footage. But the drive had been wiped. Empty. Every file from those nights, gone. And when I returned to my friend's place, he was gone too. Gone. I found his front door wide open. His apartment was cold. Still. Silent. On the kitchen counter, the photograph, that same faded family photo. Only this time, the faces were scratched out, all but mine. On the back, a new message. You're almost ready. I snapped. I went back to the apartment building, stormed into my old unit. Everything looked untouched, except the vent cover was missing. I shone a flashlight into the opening and saw something move. I don't even remember grabbing the screwdriver. I just remember unscrewing the side panel, removing the insulation, and finding a tunnel. It wasn't just vents. Someone, or something, had carved a path through the crawl spaces and walls, and it reeked of blood and mildew and something sweet. I crawled inside. I followed the path, past old blankets, rusty cans, cracked baby dolls, further, deeper, until I reached a small, hidden room, maybe a forgotten maintenance chamber. And there he was, the man from the vent, crouched, smiling, watching a TV that wasn't plugged in. On the screen, looping endlessly, was footage of me, sleeping, eating, showering, every moment from the past month. And in the corner of the room, my friend, slumped over, unmoving, his skin flayed, hung on the wall like a trophy. The man turned toward me. His face wasn't real. It looked like someone had stitched a mask of human skin onto a wax dummy. He opened his mouth, and from inside, a second mouth whispered, "Now you fit." I ran. I don't know how I escaped. I don't remember calling the police, but they found me outside, bleeding, screaming, half naked on the sidewalk. When they checked the crawl space, it was gone. No tunnel, no room, no man, no body, just an empty vent. I was hospitalized for weeks. I don't live alone anymore. I don't live anywhere with vents. But every now and then, in the quietest hour of night, I hear breathing in the walls. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I feel my own skin doesn't quite fit right anymore.